at you with a very out of uh, rotation style video. I haven't covered wrestling news in years. Years. It just, I kind of fell out of the habit, the routine. I remember back in the day, me and Anomaly and Demizzle used to bring some content. I've had Takuma on the show. I've had other individuals. Throughout the years, we go through phases, changes. Plus, I'm in a different place in my life. So just doing this at my leisure. Working for a wonderful company that that's where my time and attention. Also focusing on retiring from the military after 2 decades. So maybe when I retire, I can get back to some of my weekends back, so I can do some of this content. But yeah, it just as the title entails, you gotta talk about this. Eh, my. Oh man, I've been. Oh my goodness, Vince. Anybody that grew up in the 80s, this man kind of changed the face of sports entertainment. He's done some wonderful things and he's done some questionable things. Very, very questionable. One being breaking the streak or giving it to Brock Lesnar, of all people, who did need it. Should have been Roman Reigns. It should have been just one person that would stand to gain so much more. But Vince, in talking to Taker, is like, okay, in terms of characters, he said, "Who's gonna beat you, Taker? You're the Phenom. You're the Dead Man. You know." So it's believable that Brock would be the only one to do it. But you see, this is why they had bad booking back then, because they didn't believe in other stars, and that should have been reserved for Roman. This is, I think, I saw Taker said it himself. If anybody were to break the streak, it should have been Roman. Heck, I would even gone with Drew McIntyre. But then again, I'm saying those examples because it goes to show you questionable decisions that comes from this now feeble old man who was once respected, who's recently tarnished his legacy, tainted and stained his marriage. We knew him and Linda weren't on the same page for a long time. A long, long time. But I'm, how can I say, I walk the line of trying not to be judgmental. But when you give your opinion on certain things, it's no matter what, it's going to kind of come with it. Because I actually, what prompted me to even do this video were some other YouTubers and some of their comments towards the accuser. So, you know, man, I know I'm taking a slow entry into this thing. No pun intended, Vince. But, man, Vince McMahon accused of sex trafficking by WWE staffer he paid to keep quiet. Janelle Grant files lawsuit saying McMahon pressured her into sex with him and other men at a wrestling business, raising questions about 2022 board probe into CEO payouts. Now, I've seen a lot of different podcasts. I've been listening to more of the details. I even started reading. Yeah, I think by line 82, oh my gosh, Vince, bruh, this guy needs help. This guy needs help. He has some issues going on. It was, I just couldn't even read it anymore. And then I was listening to one of the lawyers breaking it down. Um, that he didn't care. He went into detail. I don't think I'll go into graphic detail here. Actually, I won't. I won't. You know how YouTube is. But Jesus, man. Now, yeah, I am disappointed. I am so disappointed, Vince. You have so much to lose. So much to lose. And karma reared its ugly head. When people are narcissists or have the ego the size of Jupiter and they think they're invincible, you end up like Vince. It never ends well. It never ends well when you're like this. Now, it's one thing to judge the man, but you're just going by facts. You know, it makes me bring into question the Attitude Era and some of the stuff he had Trish Stratus doing, some of the stuff he had Lita doing. You know, the Kiss My Ass Club. You know, all this like, man, I think the Mr. McMahon character that was created was actually Vince being himself. I truly think now after all the gross details has come out, it's like Vince was using the product to kind of put stuff out there. Now, Janelle Grant, I have to double check, but she's 44 years old, according to I think the last podcast that kind of triggered me to make this video. Um, I thought she looks a lot younger than 44. She looks really good. I mean, she's a beautiful beautiful lady, right? And she was down on her luck. As I understand, her parents, she was providing care for her elderly parents who've unfortunately passed away. I understand there was bankruptcy. I don't know if it was her or her parents. But you know, she was dealing with some issues and was stuck. You know, I have elderly parents myself. I can relate and understand. You know, like with my father. You know, he's at a point where I have to come to his rescue quite often for medical bills, and you know, luckily, you know, I'm blessed. My brother helped me get this job where that combined with my military income, I'm doing very well. And that's heavy. That's really heavy. And you know, we don't know how deep it goes, but she was lifting a heavy load for her parents. And now they've passed and she's dealing with the runoffs of such. And to those men who are judging her and all these people judging her, put yourself in her position and also view her as if she was your sister, your cousin, your aunt, a relative, a significant other before you start going out there. Because I was kind of mad listening to some of these a-holes talking about she knew what she was doing, she knew what she was getting into. And before I even came to say anything, I had to listen, read, and make my own uh, view and analysis on this. So you have somebody who was in a place of need, who was facing financial hardships, and during this time, I guess their mutual friend, that Janelle and Vince, they had a mutual friend. That mutual friend recommended that, oh yeah, I'll put you through to Vince, get you a job, and so on and so forth. Now, you could look at that one of two ways. Maybe that could have been like, one of those predator folks, not a predatory individual who, hey, you know what, I can feed this person to Vince. That's one way I looked at it. Or they helped their friend with the best of intentions, and something unfortunate happened, which is the situation. And My goodness. I want to know that friend that recommended that Miss Grant and Vince, meet for a job opportunity. Like, if that person knowingly fed her to Vince, they're just as bad, just as wrong as Vince. That's if. We're only speculating. All right? Just giving my 2 cents. But if they did not know, all right. This is going to get ugly because as this story breaks and things come to the surface that can make Vince either look better or worse, but given the baseline and the Texas and all that, Vince is in hot. When I mean hot, HOTTTT, hot, as we say in Creole, by Sasho. Man, he's in hot water, bro. He's in hot water. There's no coming back from this. There's no coming back from this. And so much now makes sense why he and Linda haven't been living together. And maybe why Stephanie, when they voted to not have Vince come back on board, but he strong armed himself because of his shares and wouldn't agree to a new TV rights deal if unless he was part of the company. That's some grimy stuff. Grimy stuff. But that goes to that's evidence as to what type of person Vince McMahon is. Power hungry, needs to control, classic narcissist, egotistic individual. I'm only outlining what was displayed here. But, Miss Grant, down on her luck, was just like, oh, I just need this opportunity, and probably was relieved that, hey, I can be working with WWE. 75K a year isn't bad. Like, for if you're single, um, no kids, and that's not bad. You can make a decent living depending on where you are, you know. And Vince, I mean, the first encounter, the way that happened, she wasn't hired yet, and um, it's been said that Vince has this mentality about him where he likes to see people beg, dangling the carrot, holding something over someone's head, a quid pro quo type. And you have, unfortunately, individuals like that in the military ranks who get drunk with power and do that to young, individuals that should not be happening with. That's some BS. Let's just call it like that is wrong. Morally, that is wrong. So, Vince saw an opportunity, saw somebody who was down and out and in need, dangling the carrot, which was the job opportunity, and she wasn't even hired just yet. But, you know, uh, in their conversations, there's layers. I'm not going to go through every gross detail, but that initial encounter, it was, he performs an act on her and she's there receiving the oral interaction. It was this like, okay, I need this job, and if I say no, this could jeopardize the opportunity. And uh and it just snowballs from there. Those of you who know, you know. After the details are out there, very dehumanizing, debasing. Like, oh my gosh, I said to myself, me, I have 2 sisters. I would stop at nothing to make sure I protect them as a big brother. And if anybody in my family, whether it be the many cousins that I have on my dad's side and my mom's side, that would have been a very bad day for Vince. Like, I'm telling you, that is like, oh my gosh. what she was subject to, being cornered, and those again, put yourself in her shoes. Like if you were stuck in a situation where you're down and out, they're like the one podcast I was listening to on my drive home. It's like, well, you knew what was gonna happen, and you knew this and that, and why didn't you just leave? But on several occasions, she did refuse a few of these requests. In the initial request, she wasn't even comfortable. She was like, I don't think this is appropriate, so on and so forth. And Vince coerced her, imposed, impressed on it. And then when she caved in, she's asking to use contraceptions and protection, all that stuff. And then he's saying, "Oh, I'm clean," or John Laurinaitis is clean. Oh, you don't need to worry about that. It's like, wow. Fast forwarding because I'm jumping around with this. It's just things with like multiple threesomes. She's saying initially no, and one no means no. End of story. And all these other guys are like, oh well, you agreed to it. If you listen and check everything, initially she wasn't on board. And if you're forcing somebody into a situation, knowing that she needed the job to take care of finances and get back on her feet, that's exploiting an individual who is not mentally. This is not even an excuse. Somebody who was just stuck in a jam, and this is not uncommon that you have individuals who would are trying to survive, and Vince took advantage of that. He saw that, and let's be real, she's not the first. I'm pretty sure she might be the last one he wished he did that to. But it's just a deplorable situation where Vince was completely out of line, gone unchecked, and now he's going to suffer the consequences. He will be made an example out of. Believe me when I tell you, he will not leave the situation unscathed. And then when you think about Linda McMahon, Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Eric Bischoff, I saw a show with him talking about they're good people. Those three are good people. And it's unfortunate that, then their name is marred in this controversy of being McMahon's, and Vince did what he was doing. It seemed like a sick cycle, which now explains why there was discrepancies before the sale of WWE to Ari Emanuel. Like, how come this money's unaccounted for? You know why it was unaccounted for. He was paying hush money to multiple women. To Linda McMahon. Ugh. I guess they stayed married because I guess on paper, but they're living separately, and she doesn't have to deal with that. This is a woman that brilliant, very smart individual. Provided two kids, marriage, dedication, vows, and Vince out there doing what he's doing. Mm, 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 mm. And as this young lady was caught in this situation where it just it probably went too far. It went farther than maybe she thought it was gonna go. And again, the main foundational piece is the fact that she felt that if she refused, it would jeopardize her ability to sustain that job with WWE. But Vince kept pushing the issue, just like he pushes the issue with his questionable booking and decisions over the decades. I mean, Vince is brilliant, but he also started making mistakes after the Attitude Era, like the the PG era and the reality era and all that. It's like some of the stuff Vince was doing was just weird. But now you kind of see like it was, is he like becoming senile? Is he having some mental decline or something? Because nobody in their right mind, I know me, if I was in Vince's position, I know that power corrupts and people can become drunk with it. You have too much to lose to make these risky decisions. In a time of Me Too and people being having access to cell phones and text records and all of that, we're in the world of Big Brother. You have to move differently. My goodness. Now he has to resign. Now he has to resign and tarnish his legacy. I don't think he understands what, like, how selfish he was in this time, because all of this, now that Brock Lesnar is implicated in this, whether he did anything or not, there was intent. He didn't partake because of one snowstorm. He couldn't make it for an engagement that Vince orchestrated, which she was being used as a bargaining chip for him to re-sign with the company, pimping her out basically. Vince's physical therapist organized a threesome, and he defecated on her head, and that was no accident. Some people were like, "Oh, he's old. He couldn't hold his stool." No, he told this woman in that three-way, after he defecated on her forehead and it got in her hair, to continue servicing the physical therapist while he took a shower. That was intentional. And that's a direct retort to a certain podcaster, which I'm not even gonna like link them or refer to them by name, because I don't want to get into a back and forth with anybody, because individuals who are defending Vince or condemning Janelle Grant, y'all look like y'all come from a different cloth, because that means that you're oiling on milk and we won't get along, because I grew up with a moral compass. But what Vince has done was deplorable, man. That and it just kept going on and on and on, like the John Laurinaitis thing at home office. He's offering this woman up. Vince, this is to Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Remember, this is someone who could potentially be, well, who is a daughter, could be a sister, a cousin. She's somebody to someone, and you are treating her like that. Put it into perspective, Vince. You have a daughter. You have grandkids. Would you ever would want them to be subjected to what you subjected this woman to, who obviously had to have been making decisions from a place of hurt, grieving, and not sound judgment, and you took advantage. That's how a lot of women end up in the adult movie industry. There's a percentage who are just like completely like shell shocked, and they're just, either they could have mental issues, they could have drug issues, they could have had traumatic situations that they're trying to get out of, probably abusive relationships, deplorable living conditions, and then they're doing any and everything to survive. And that's what Vince did, literally. Just like a producer of adult films will go and just pick up somebody off the street, or somebody that's just down and out. But again, I forget I'm not monetized on this channel anymore, so I should be my old juggernaut self and just let it rip. But I've grown a little bit, I've matured. If you've seen some of my older content, but again, I am doing like the Jackie Chan meme where he's just like holding his hands, like what, what? How could Vince do something like that? That's why you gotta look at, never put anyone on a pedestal, because they will fail you. You have to take folks as they are. We are human beings who are flawed and frail. We will make mistakes, and the best we could do is try to atone and try to just say, hey, you know what? Just treat your fellow man, brothers and sisters, the right way. What I don't understand about the situation on Vince's part is, there was another podcast I listened to. I think Rene Dupree, former WWE wrestler. I refer to them as wrestlers because this superstar nonsense is BS to me. But he made a good point in my drive to work, where there are women you can pay to do this, but you took someone, you broke her down, and turned her into something she was not, which was a piece of meat, a plaything, something disposable. And when Linda McMahon found out, everything had to cease. Now, she was subject to all kinds of extreme acts, such as um, toys that were named after WWE wrestlers, superstars. And they were named, if it was a black toy, it was named after a black wrestler. And you know how that, and the rest. The Caucasian was, and he got rough with her on one occasion to the point where she could not remove one toy from her body, causing bleeding and damage, broke her down. No wonder why he had to pay all her medical bills. That to me is like disgusting, in the fact that, dude, like, you're breaking this woman up, you're roughing her up, you're doing all that, and some sort of bonding had to occur, because a lot of times you got the psyche of the abusers who should get away, don't necessarily do it right away because they hesitate, and it's deep. It's deep. Like, I have family members who study this, in the medical field, and that mental piece of it. Before these men are out here judging her, you gotta like try to see it from her point of view and understand what could have been other circumstances besides being, trapped, cornered, holding the job over her head, in her emotional state, mental state at the time that she was dealing with this, just to keep her job, just to survive. She endured this stuff for the time that she did. But goodness gracious, like that gruesome detail. I'm like, how far and how big was this alleged toy that hurt her? My goodness. And then Vince is sending the text is like, oh yeah, I got carried away. Ha ha. Like, wow. Like, he literally was breaking her down in the verbiage, the language. Like, oh my gosh, that was just. I don't even want to go into it. I think just the few details that I highlighted was enough. The rest you can find online. But at the end of the day, um, if I understand correctly, Ari Emanuel has a daughter that worked for WWE or is still working. I'm not too sure. I have to follow up on that. That must mean something. That must mean something because now he has to question the culture that his daughter was working in. Vince, you done messed up on this one. Over here looking like Gomez Adams from Adams Family, trying to hold on to the last vestige of power, you know. And I hate to, crack jokes or try to insult the man, but Vince, you let a lot of us down, man. I say it like this: there's people, even like Hulk Hogan, he messed up with, using a certain word, and I was hurt by that because Hulk Hogan was my hero. He was the first thing I ever saw in terms of professional wrestling. My dad and I were, uh, I forget how he and I were watching it. We just were channel surfing, and I'm young at the time, so I all I remember, my dad was like, oh my god," and I run into the room, and you see Hulk Hogan standing nose to nose with Andre the Giant, and my dad was like getting hyped, and I was just like, okay, and I was big into He-Man and all that stuff, and then as that match occurred and Hogan did, body slam Andre the Giant, Hogan had me. The reason for that is he embodied the hope that no matter how big the obstacle is in your way, you could pick it up, body slam it, and drop a leg on it and emerge victorious. That's what Hulk Hogan stood for me at least. And then, like I said earlier, you hold people up on pedestals, they will let you down. And that whole thing with Brooke Hogan dating the black guy, and I'm a man of color, you know, and for Hogan to have been using that language in anger or in disappointment or whatever, it's like, come on, Terry. Come on, you're Hulk Hogan. You're above this. This is that using that kind of language is beneath you. It's beneath you. But some people won't forgive him. I've met him at New York Comic Con with my best friend, and I consider him my brother. He's the brother I should have had as opposed to the one that I got. But we were at New York Comic Con, and we met Hulk Hogan. And I got to tell him, I shook his hand. I said, you know what? You are the reason why I started watching sports entertainment. And I'm a relatively large individual. I'm 240 pounds, 6 foot even, right? And I go in my semi cosplay and I try to flex because I get in the gym. I've been in the army. I like staying fit. And Hogan dwarfed me. This is a guy, what, 260, 200, like 70 at his peak? That guy is freaking huge. That was not normal. Some of these sports entertainers are just they're larger than life. And that's how Vince portrayed everything, larger than life. And I think a certain fired, salty WWE wrestler was saying that Vince lives his life by the 48 laws of power. I saw the individual ranting on TikTok, and he said he ran the business that way, and he ran his life that way, and it got him in trouble. But yeah, Vince disappointed. He really like, damn, Vince, damn. I mean, there's some other stuff. Again, it's alleged, and Pat Patterson's name was thrown in there, but rest his soul, he's not here to defend himself. But man, I hope that's not true. But then again, I cringe because it might be true. All this stuff now, it's like you got to call into question. You can't put nothing past nobody. And Vince definitely is the example of not putting anything past anyone. Your legacy is tarnished, Vince. You were supposed to get this grand send off like The Undertaker did when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's what I saw for Vince. That's what I saw for Hogan. That's what I see for a lot of people who really put things, it gave us something to root for. You know, there's a lot to be admired about Vince, and there's a lot to be not to, a lot to condemn him for. But in the court of public opinion, it's divided. There's some people who are like defending Vince, or like, wow, she knew what she was getting into and this and that. For those who are saying that she knew what she was getting into, put your girlfriend, put your wife, put anybody, and put them in a situation like Indecent Proposal with Richard Gere and what was that? Probably not Richard Gere. I forget, but yeah, compromised situations, and then come back to me and maybe I hope that changes your opinion. Vince was a predator. He took advantage. He struck while the iron was hot. He used and abused that girl. Had her sign an NDA for $3 million in hush money. He reneged because he only gave her $1 million. And after all she went through, she's like, oh no. You're not gonna make me have PTSD, physical damage. I don't need. I'm thinking this poor woman, will she even have a sustainable relationship after this? She took a risk and put her name out there. Janelle Grant. Her name is out there. And all these judgmental individuals, like, man, I'm not going to wife her up. I'm not going to do this with her or that with her. She has, bro, she's in a bad situation herself. So it's like, now what? She's going to get something out of it. Believe me when I tell you. But this may have to go to trial. She's definitely winning the case. That's what I don't even think everything is out there. The in terms of the details, because now in the era of Me Too, once she gets Vince, the other ones are gonna come out the sewers and be like, yeah, he did this to me, he did that to me. Vince, the skeletons are coming out your closet, and the Undertaker can't get rid of them for you. So, with that said, in closing, I just want to say to those condemning her and blaming her for this, you know what? Screw you. Because if she was connected to you, you would be thinking very differently. Me, as a sergeant first class in the United States military that's getting ready to retire, I was a mentor. I was a protector. I've seen individuals try to take advantage of females. You find out not just in the military, but in all walks of life. But for me, I would never want to see somebody feeling trapped. Oh, yeah, do this for me and I can get you promoted to E5. Do that for me, I can get. I heard one or two stories in my 21-year career where I was just like, you know what? A certain high ranking senior uh, enlisted, pulling some stuff like that, dangling that over the soldier's head. And it's like, there's a special place for people like that. Power corrupts, power kills, power will get people in trouble if they're not humble. Learn from this, folks. This has been the man, the myth, the juggernaut. I'm just talking off the cuff. I had my notes. I went through them early on, but I had to really flesh out. Like, I just really am disappointed in Vince. That was evil. You took over a woman, and she wasn't even a woman anymore. She was just a plaything. So I hope that in the next couple weeks, months, or however long this takes to develop, obviously we're gonna be following it. But man, Vince, you're gonna ride this one. You're gonna ride the lightning. You're gonna ride the lightning, cause the culture, the party lifestyle, the drugs, the partying, and all that stuff that I've learned, in listening to the culture when they're on the road and all that. That's crazy. That's crazy. But to the McMahon family, Shane, Stephanie, and Linda, y'all didn't choose that. I wish all of you well. And to those who want Triple H fired, I'm going to offer you this before I sign off. Be careful what you ask for. Triple H's decisions has been making it for a better product. Now, if he knew about this stuff, karma will work its way. You can't protect anyone who's done wrong or turn a blind eye. But I will respect how he approached being put on the spot right after the Royal Rumble. Cody masterclass and how he responded. But you got to remember, Cody's not related or has, ties like Triple H does. That's his father-in-law, the grandpa of his children, father of his wife. It's just very sickening to see how the media is just trying to just throw something on him. If Triple H has been proven to be involved, which I highly doubt. I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. But if he knew, and then TKO is going to try to clean house, that means, to me, I look at the McMahons like the Belmont family to Castlevania. That name is synonymous with sports entertainment, and the Belmonts in the video game Konamiverse are synonymous with kicking Dracula's behind through the centuries. And there was always a Belmont descendant there to fight Dracula. And now, I think that the promo that Shane, when he popped up, when Stephanie was getting the Vincent Kennedy, the Kennedy McMahon Award of Excellence, and he came back and he cut that promo on Vince, where it's a different company, it's publicly traded, and Shane came out there with that promo saying, I want this company to be here for the next generation, and then the next generation, and so on and so forth. I felt that, and that aged well, because now, for the first time in 50 years, there's no McMahon involved with WWE. And not even by proxy with Triple H, because he's a Levesque. But Vince, that's your fault. His father would be rolling in his grave right now. So shame on you, Vince. You done messed up. This has been the man, the myth, the juggernaut. Alex Lexus hitting you with the head crush, canceling into that juggernaut pimp smack, baby. I'll see you on the next one. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a couple more of these as time progresses. So I'll see y'all. One love. Peace.